So, hello everyone, welcome to Ludo History. As always, I am Adam, and we're playing more Great Ace Attorney Chronicles today. We are starting Game 1, Case 5, which is the final case of Case 1, so obviously some spoilers do lie ahead. Hello to everyone who is slipping in, and hello to everyone who is watching the VOD. If you miss any of this, of course, it will be on Twitch for 2 weeks, or upload to YouTube eventually. I'm catching up on VOD uploads this week. If you're watching on YouTube, do consider joining us live. You get more regular schedules of videos, and also get to join in all the fun live, which honestly is very worth it. So I hope you all enjoy. If you do, make sure you also consider following, subscribing to the stream, or supporting on Patreon. It does help a lot to make this happen. So, what say we go meet Sherlock Holmes, or Sherlock Sholmes, and enjoy the fact that we are living in his house, moderately free of rent. Seems like a good deal to me, honestly. Oh wait. Select adventure. The adventure of the unspeakable story. The Hound of the Baskervilles.
It's coming! Sholmes's cry pierced through the thick wall of fog around us. Wisps of vapor flowed over the pistols I cocked it, and I waited, breathlessly, in the stillness. The silence lasted for what seemed an eternity, until, at last, it appeared.
You're a bit early for crime blues.
In the shadows of the cloud, an enormous beast sprang out upon us. A hound it was, but not such a hound as any mortal has ever seen. Its eyes glowed with a smoldering glare. The whole of its ox-sized body was outlined in white-hot flames. Its rumbling pant and hideous howl, so terrified was I that I began to tremble with fear.
Can we get a doggo blessing chat, please?
Gazing upon the mystical
It is a good dog.
For this is the diabolical Hound of the Baskervilles.
And we do have an emote to bless dog. First 2 months in London passed by in a flash. In that disconcerting courtroom experience we were first thrown into on the day we arrived in the country, and in Sosaki-san's terrible ordeal that followed closely behind, we had emerged victorious. However, there then came an abrupt end to our opportunities to appear in court, which was hardly surprising, of course, since I was nothing more than an amateur, an unknown student of law from a faraway land. So, life in our little office was very quiet. That is, until it was shattered one day by that fateful telegram. The heckin' pupper of Baskerville. Y'all! 15th of April at 9:13 AM, Naruhodo's Legal Consultancy. That morning, I was woken by the unreserved knocking on the door by the telegram boy. But after he'd gone, Susato-san's behavior became very obviously strange. Is Susato-san? Yes! Is it time to leave for court already? Let me see, what case is it today? I don't think I'm scheduled to defend anyone at the moment, am I? Oh, no, of course not. How silly of me. Oh, we've got an ice-cold take. And the ice-cold take is, of course, that the Hound of the Baskervilles is a good boy. Now, we can actually talk a little bit more about the Hound of the Baskervilles. So the story is more relevant to this case than the plot of the story. Right, so the context around the Hound of the Baskervilles is that it is, basically an interlude to satisfy public appetite for more Sherlock Holmes, because Sherlock Holmes has been dead for 6 years at this point. Oh. Hooray. We got the ice and then we got the spice. Okay. We'll get around to the spice. But right, Sherlock Holmes dies in The Adventure of Reichenbach Falls, or I guess it's the last advent or his last stand? Is that what it is? Regardless, after he yeets himself off a waterfall, he's dead. But public outcry for more Sherlock Holmes stories is enormous in the last decade of the 1800s, and so in 1901, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle publishes The Hound of the Baskervilles, a prequel novel, and probably, I don't know if this is actually spicy, but probably the best of the Sherlock Holmes stories, certainly the longest, are, in my opinion, probably the best. And that presages Sherlock Holmes' turn to serialization in Strand magazine, and I believe it's 1903 that we start getting things. Not that spicy, one of my faves actually. Great, then we got the ice cold take out of the way. Woohoo! It would also be a nice cool take to say that Sherlock Holmes was kind of an asshole in that. Now we need to figure out something spicy. I'm sure something will come up in this room. Actually, I can guarantee something will come up in this room. But I think Iris said she would make us breakfast this morning, so shall we go down to Mr. Sholmes' suite? Yes, Iris makes the most delicious breakfast food. She does, doesn't she? And once our bellies are full, we can leave for court in fighting fit form. Let me see. What case is it today? Here we go again. Chat. Spicy take. Spade or shovel? Here is your spice. Is this a spade or a shovel? Big spade. That spade has been in here since we started renting the place. Oh, that's not a spade, Naruhodo-san. It's a shovel. No, shovels are for digging. That's for scooping up loose material. It's a spade. No, spades are for digging. That's for scooping up loose material. It's a shovel. I don't want to dig a hole for myself, so let's leave it. Spade, shovel, discourse, supremacy. Ah yes, our ladder versus step ladder for the game. Don't worry, some nameless punk. We do have ladder versus step ladder arguments too. We couldn't have an Ace Attorney game without one. It just wouldn't be right. And now there's a compliment as well. My compliment for it is, I think, right here. We were rather lucky to find that old aquarium left behind here. The prawns we put in there are doing rather well, and the anemones too. It's a wonderful invention, isn't it? The sea behind glass inside your room. Another example of Great Britain's greatness. Having to clean it out and change the water isn't so great though, is it? That! Look at it! A little bit of good old-fashioned aquarium craze? Good old-fashioned aquarium crazes, because this is the right time period for them to start getting really popular. And the fact that we've got them means that we get another prawns. No fish. No fish in here, they're just prawns. And anemones, which are also not fish. Alright. Now for the nitpick. What do we have here? What do we have here? Would it be a nitpick to say that the place looks awfully clean? Ah, this must be the telegram. Let's see. Ah! No! You mustn't look at that! Not under any circumstances. Alright, I won't. I'm sorry, Naruhodo-san. You can be very mischievous at times. Then put the telegram away if you don't want people looking at it. Did we actually figure out what time period? We know exactly what time period it is. It's the year that's the problem. Right, we know it's later Victorian. Because that's the time period that Sherlock Holmes games are in. Right, we just need to figure out what year it is. And that is far more difficult. Here, you can't find out what year it is. I'm working on a whole video on how you cannot figure out what year it is. No, Stefan, Victorian. Let me be extremely clear on that. It's not late Victorian / Edwardian. It is Victorian. Her Majesty the Queen is alive and well. The latest year I think we've gotten is with the Old Bailey identification, being 1907 for the initial usage. But yeah, we're going to see as early as 1850 before we're done with the second game. Or I guess technically as early as 1860, but yes. The latest year we have gotten is 1907, but the preponderance of evidence does point to somewhat earlier. Anyway, let's look at more things. Good desk. Don't look at my desk, chat. You can't see it, but don't look at it anyway. We've only been here in London for about 2 months, but my desk is starting to look a little messy already. You could tidy it up once in a while. Susato-san, I'll always say, making a mess is a small sacrifice to pay for being able to further your studies. And time spent tidying up is time you can't devote to the same cause. And time spent on ridiculous arguments is time that could be better spent on some simple housework. She wins, but I'm supposed to be the lawyer here. Ah, the Dharma doll I brought with me from home, still with only one eye covered in. I said I colored the other eye once I won my first court case here in Britain, but you have one, haven't you? Twice, in fact. Because I feel as though I'm still lacking as a lawyer. I tell you what, why don't you color the eye in once you think I'm a proper, fully-fledged lawyer? If you insist! Oh, well, that's never getting pulled. Oh no. It's hopeless. It's spring at last, and the weather is warmer now. But I love the smell of the fire, and the steam rising from the kettle. Oh, would you like some tea, Naruhodo-san? Thank you, Susato-san, but I'm alright for now. With the green tea Susato-san makes me from time to time, and Iris's unique herbal infusions, this place is paradise for a true tea lover. Green tea is such a wonderful accompaniment to British tea cakes, don't you think? Chad, I regret to inform you that I am drinking Earl Grey, and have adopted black tea supremacy. So, this is the tea set that Susato-san brought with her from Japan. Let's hope she hasn't noticed me slipping sugar and milk into my cup when she makes it. It's just so bitter. Tea is a drink to be enjoyed, Naruhodo-san. You really don't have to force yourself to drink it, you know. I don't like to see you screw up your face, though. Putting milk and sugar in green tea. Do you know, I've never seen inside your room there, Susato-san. I've never even peeped inside. I should think so too! A young maiden's private chamber is a place of bittersweet secrets, you know. Whatever you say, young maiden. Onions. Fun thing. We'll be here for a bit. About 3 hours, probably. So if you make it back, you're welcome. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your evening, friend. Onions. Look at the big string of onions. Also, the music is so charming. Alright, now, what's going on? So, my name is Yu. You make a good argument. Chai is an excellent tea. I had some, masala chai, when I was, at one of the tea houses when I visited Prague last. So that's really tasty. It's really, really sweet. Right, it's actually too sweet for me for the most part, but, right, putting chai with masala spices in it, steeped in milk, is very good. Hello, Parisian. Welcome, my friend. The telegram that was delivered this morning, I mean. Oh, a telegram? I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry, but you're not going to get away with that. Well, I didn't think I would. Actually, don't give it a moment's thought. It's nothing interesting. Boring, in fact. Wow, she's very good at lying, chat. What can I say? It was just a boring old telegram. That's 3 times now that she's tried, and failed, to convince me it was nothing. I promise I'll tell you about it at some point. Alright, I understand. Enough ginger should be a mild challenge to actually drink it. This is my kind of chai. No, I don't think that's spicy. Right, orange pico is... If it's really nice orange pico, it's actually very good. But, for the most part, right, the cheap stuff you get in, like, from, like, Twinnings or something, right, that's not very good tea. It's really durable tea. I suppose Soseki-san will have arrived back in Japan by now, won't he? Yes, I should think so. He left immediately after that terrible ordeal. Which would mean he should have completed the voyage already, or be just a few days away. A fortnight ago, we had that very long telegram from him, do you remember? Complaining of seasickness. By and large, it seems the voyage has been going well. Is something wrong, Naruhodo-san? I was just wondering what might have become of Soseki-san had he stayed in London, that's all. You mean as regard Lord Van Zieks, the Reaper? Yes, I can't help wondering if seasickness would have paled into insignificance in that case. What is it they say? That no one who stands in the dock can be saved from the Reaper, right? Yo, Parisian, West Slavic does too. Czech just calls it all chai. Like the way that nightmarish trial ended on the very first day we arrived in London. Even 2 months on, the cause of that dreadful fire is still a mystery. Yes, but at least Soseki-san is safe out of the country now. Presumably that means... that the curse of the Reaper can only take effect within the confines of the city of London, perhaps? Even if that's the case, it's little comfort. I have a terrible sense of foreboding. If the legend of the Reaper is to be believed, it would mean he wields the Sword of Justice himself. Come to think of it, I wonder what he's been up to these past 2 months. Surely not wielding that sword against more acquitted defendants. No, I don't think so. Apparently Lord Van Zieks hasn't appeared in court once since our last encounter. Oh? Yes, since Soseki-san's trial, he's withdrawn from judicial service again, it seems. Really? Just like before, when he wasn't seen in court at all for several years. So it's just been me who's had to face him in his recent spate of trials then? Ugh, just my luck. I wonder if luck doesn't come into it. Sorry? What was that? Oh, nothing. Never mind. Susato, don't say that. Let's go. Let's go meet. Let's go meet Sholmes and Iris. By the way, reminder, John Watson is very kaput, or rather John Wilson is very kaput, and we have Sholmes, the author of the Sherlock Sholmes stories, published in Rant's magazine, is Iris Wilson. And 2 more gifted subs to Writing Worm and a gallon of Milky. Thank you so much, this dude. Morning, Rio. Morning, Sissy. Good morning, Iris. Iris. So, here's the nitpick. Sherlock Sholmes is kind of a little bit too much of a dumbass right now. What is it, Reno? What is that terrible noise? Sounds like a cat being strangled. Yes, you noticed that, did you? Hurley isn't in the best form this morning, it seems. Hello. Hello, Mr. Sholmes. Good morning. What the hell is this sound? So, you know, in the stories, Sherlock Holmes is an extremely accomplished violinist. He could have gone professional if he felt like, except he doesn't. Sherlock Holmes seems to be less competent. Certainly, when he looks like this. A good morning to die, perhaps. Has something happened, Mr. Sholmes? You look miserable, and the way you're playing the violin before. My analytical mind is dead. Music is dead. The world is dead. Damn this blanched existence! No, he's just depressed. Right, a couple weeks ago, Lizard had postulated, you know, that in the stories, Sherlock Holmes has a bit of a drug habit. Lizard in the Dark in chat postulated that that was self-medicating for bipolar. This game certainly seems to at least acknowledge the wildly variable mood swings. He, Lizard, not Wizard. I mean, could be a lizard wizard. I don't know. I haven't met Lizard properly. IRL. Let's assume a lizard wizard until further notice. That's all it is, my dear fellow. Nothing of consequence. I'm afraid I don't understand. Well, Iris, isn't it time we ate? Some dry toast and insipid coffee for me. If it's not too much trouble. Meow! Meow! Oh, look, it's Wagahaya. Good morning, boy. Meow! Kitty! That must be some sort of tiny door for cats to use. But how did it get there? Well then, everyone, time for breakfast. Oh, wonderful. Let me help you, Iris. Ugh. It would indeed be a fine day to die. I knew something looked different. Something's missing from Mr. Sholmes' desk. You seem to be very unhappy this morning, Mr. Sholmes. What's happened? It used to be the case that in my hands, this violin sung like a dawn chorus. Its Melissan tones would make flowers bloom. It would? But now, the muses are unamused with me. The goddesses of music have thrown me over. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Sholmes? For hours I have bowed, for days even. Through the night I have endeavoured, to no avail. That sound, my tone, is lost. That brilliant, clear, unwavering tone, gone forever. No more recitals of unbridled emotion. Well, you haven't been practicing much lately, have you, Hurley? Don't worry, I'm sure we'll come back to you in time. Heed my words, Mr. Naruhodo. The goddesses of the arts are fickle. One day they bestow genius on a man, the next they unmercifully withdraw it. Oh dear. Why is this happening to me? If they take the turn I have for the violin from me, what is left, for pity's sake? What is left? Deduction, perhaps? Isn't that what you're known for? He's bored. The Lord yeeteth, and the Lord yoinketh away. Mr. Scholes, I don't like to pry, but... Your desk looks rather empty today. Ah, well done, Miss Susato. Your observational skills do you credit. Oh, no, Mr. Scholes, they pale into insignificance when compared to yours. You'd struggle not to notice, wouldn't you? You mean Hurley's great analytoscope? That's at Winterbanks now. Sorry? Is that a Windy Bank? No, Winterbanks, the pawnbrokery. What? You mean you've pawned that enormous machine of yours? It has some considerable value, you see, quite undeservingly. But isn't it a very important machine for your work? I do wish you had consulted us if your situation becomes so desperate. I should have gladly passed what little income I have to you. Dear Madame, things are far from desperate. But the pawnbrokery has your wonderful machine. How can it be anything but desperate? Making use of a pawnbrokery is quite ordinary here in London, I assure you. It is? It doesn't sound ordinary at all. It would seem that neither of you fully understand how pawnbroking works. Oh, what's to understand exactly? What did you mean when you said we didn't fully understand how pawnbroking works? To the people of London, pawnbrokeries are akin to banks. Banks? On Mondays, merchants relinquish their finest jackets and trappings to their pawnbroker of choice. With the money they receive in return, they are able to trade happily through the week. And then on Saturdays, they go to recover the things using the money they've earned. I had no idea. This has been a fascinating lesson for us. Everyone does it, you see, especially people in inner London. And should they have money to spare, they would purchase another fine jacket. Not to wear, obviously, but to pawn, should the need arise. Oh, how ingenious! So, whenever there's something that's getting in the way, we leave their window banks, you see? A pawnbrokery can be thought of as an extremely secure vault. Who would have thought that even pawnbrokers are different here in Great Britain? Yep, that is true, Stefan. Right, so this is an exaggerated version of a real thing. Right, so in the period, middle-class families mostly would do this. If you were stupid wealthy, you didn't care. If you were poor, you used the pawnbrokery in desperation. So mostly, you're looking at middle-class families would pawn their Sunday clothes on Monday. Then they would buy them back on Saturday to wear them to church, to pawn them again. And so basically, you just have like, as long as you're vaguely responsible with your money, they turn illiquid assets into liquid assets extremely easily. Of course, you have to watch Helly with it. Sometimes he pawns things he really shouldn't. Don't you, Helly? What does it matter? The world is dead to me now. Oh dear. Oh dear. Look at Mr. Jones's desk. It's completely clear. Isn't that enormous machine usually on it? We can never hope to understand what goes on in the great detective's mind, Mr. Naruhodo. Why, next time we invite it, we may find he's vacated the entire suite. That's scarily plausible, actually. There's all sorts of these shelves. Chemistry apparatus, books, papers, and lots of things I've never seen before. It's all heaped up so high I can't help feeling that the whole lot is going to topple at any moment. Oh, it's such a charmingly untidy collection of paraphernalia, isn't it? It just looks messy to me, like my desk. But you, Mr. Naruhodo, must learn to tidy up after yourself. No favoritism there, then. Ah, yes, the letters V and R inscribed on the wall, in bullet holes. Isn't the initials of the Queen or something? It's so delightful to see it in the flesh, having read about it in the stories. It was so inspiring. I fired 100 arrows into my own wall at home to make the character for Sue of Susato, you know? Per? But perhaps there are some things the great detective does that you don't need the copy? Well, you can almost see it as it scrolls by. It looks like that huge metal chest is being used as a table for tea and coffee. Seems very sturdy with an equally sturdy lock. Miss Naruhodo, you mustn't go around opening things. I always have to keep an eye on you, don't I? You're very mischievous. How did you come to that conclusion? Looking at it. The fire's burning comfortably in the grate again today. It's a very different feeling to a Japanese hibachi somehow. Oh, look at the photographic print of the lady display on the mantelpiece. Could it be? Yes, it must be. It's the woman. Oh, how exciting. The woman being, of course, Irene Adler. Is that supposed to mean something to me? Right. The woman being Irene Adler. And the photograph being a thing that actually, I believe, Sherlock Holmes kept in that adventure. As a memento. Does Susato think Ryunosuke is her cat? She doesn't not think Ryunosuke is her cat. Let's leave it at that. These are all memories of Mr. Jones's past cases, I think. If he'd been involved in my case, I wonder if the beefsteak from La Carnival would be on display here. A mystery shoe, a curious hammer, some mysterious dancing men, a bust of Napoleon. Ah, what an entrancing collection. It looks like an untidy assortment of junk to me rather like what's on my own shelves. Well, you really ought to learn to keep your things in order, Mr. Naruhodo. No favoritism there at all. These are, of course, all references to actual Sherlock Holmes cases. Oh well. This is where Iris knows her ideas, isn't it? Let's see. What does it say today? Ah, the Boscombe Valley Mystery. Ooh, how intriguing. Must be the title of Iris' latest work. Oh my, I wonder what fantastic tale awaits us. Susato-san looks like an angel, but I bet she's dreaming the most unsavory crime you could imagine. Hey look, another actual Sherlock Holmes story. You do love all the references. Iris' beautiful tea set is there on the table as usual. A cup of one of her special blends always helps me to relax when I'm feeling the strain. The English pasta of tea has many similarities with our own tea ceremony customs, don't you think? It's the idea of hospitality behind it. That's the essence of tea. Now. That's a charming little white shelf, full of charming little bottles too. But because of them aren't quite so charming, it seems. Science is the future, Mr. Naruhodo. You can't deny it. I'm saving my money so that I can buy some chemistry apparatus as well. Chemistry, takedown throws. What are the skills you boast, Mr. Zato? As useful as they are, I'm not sure that my throwing skills are worthy of inclusion in that list. I don't know. We've gotten thrown an awful lot of times for them to not be included in that list. Come to think of it, I haven't seen Iris doing much writing recently. But there's paper already set up in the typewriter. Look, as if she's about to start. Sheesh. That reminds me, when I mentioned that Iris was in the process of writing a full-fledged novel, Mr. Natsume was most impressed. Ah yes, Mr. Natsume. That's what I'll be doing, too, once I'm back in Japan, he said through tightly clenched fists and teeth. Alright, Iris, what do you have to say for yourself? Okay. Mr. Natsume's cat seems to settle into his new home then. Oh yes, I've become very attached to little Wagi. Ugh. It would appear his previous owner is completely forgotten to him. Cats are unfeeling creatures, their mews as empty as the hearts of the muses. Mr. Natsume had no intention of taking Wagi back to Japan, and why he kept him in the first place. I expect he would have taken him if he could, but pets are strictly forbidden aboard steamships in our experience. And for good reason. Terrible things can happen if the rules of passage are not obeyed. Well, look at how cute Wagahai is. Such a good kitty. Well, I don't mind because Wagi is adorable. Yes, he really is. Yes, what about the door? I don't remember seeing that tiny thing in the main door before. Where did that come from? Oh, you noticed? You are observant, Runa. Look, I'll use this. It's my latest invention. What is that? I call it the cat flapper mat. Inator. Gosh, a machine for making doors just for cats? That's right, you can make a cat flap for a little furry friend like Wagi in seconds. And you can do it in any door at all, no matter what it's made of. It's very powerful, you see. Wouldn't it have been quicker just to make the cat flap, rather than making a machine to make the cat flap? Well, yes, maybe, but I can make cat flaps anywhere I like. Oh, I think it's wonderful. Look, Iris is secretly Dr. Doofenshmirtz. And will make innators. Of all things. So many innators. To do so much stuff. Ha! Well, you were just reading about how readily arsenic used to be sold as rat poison and a beauty product because people thought it helped with complexion. For some reason. I don't know. That's sweet. If you burn away all of the skin, I guess that's good. And some people took advantage of that to do a whole lot of murder. That's terrifying. What did you miss? Mostly Wagahai being cute, Wolfie. You didn't miss a whole lot. Just Wagahai being extremely cute. Oh, I think it's wonderful. You must make one for us on the door of our office upstairs, Iris. She really knows how to come up with unconventional inventions. Innators! This girl. Oh yeah, also, Herlock Sholmes is extremely depressed. Oh, what was that? Okay. What was that? I know! Wagahai's tangled up in your violin! I think he thinks it's a toy. No, what's he doing to it? Oh dear, Mr. Schultz's precious violin. Why should I care? What? I shouldn't be surprised. If the cat is a more accomplished musician than I now. No. Mr. Scholes really is in poor spirits, isn't he? Well, anyway, I'll put it back where it lives, shall I, Harley? Out of the cat's reach, if possible. Maybe we should assess the damage. So, this is the violin, is it? It's a Stradivarius, one of the finest violins in the world, made by renowned Italian luthier Antonio Stradivari. Cat. I can assure you, there is no way that this is a Stradivarius. There is a 9% chance. Also, Sherlock Holmes, have a less expensive instrument, please. No, I see. It doesn't really look like anything special to me. It's more importantly, even in the 19th century, a genuine Stradivarius, was well known to be probably the best violins in the world. Why would Holmes have something that costly? Great question. Right, so there were genuine Stradivari on the Titanic, right in this time period. But they were loaned from museums because they were already being put in museums. And so, right, if you had an authenticated Stradivarius, there was a lot of conservation work that was going on with that instrument. Certainly, you would not be left with a ginormous crack from one of the F-holes all the way to the end of the instrument. Or with the varnish that decrepit. Look how devastated that varnish is. Right, there's no way. No way. Even though they are sometimes left in bad condition. Because obviously not everything can be in the best condition. But, note, it looks too modern. That would actually not be the case. Because basically modern violins, from my understanding, my brother is a trained-ish luthier. So, I picked up some things. There are basically three main models, right, that for the kind of high-end violins will usually model themselves either off of one of Stradivarius's, one of Amante's, or one of Guarneri's pieces. And so, right, nicer violins are still very often, and heck, even some cheap violins, are very often Strad models, even made, if they were made this year. You made tea? What did you miss? Wagahai ruining Sholmes' violin. Is that all? Is there no case yet? There is no case yet. I happened upon it covered in dust, languishing in a pawn shop down a nondescript back alley. The broker had no idea of its value, so I was able to purchase it for a mere 55 shillings. How honorable of you. And until today, it has been my faithful companion in every Paganini-inspired performance I have made. I ask you, is there reason to live in a world devoid of music? To tolerate this blanched existence? No. There is none. Mr. Charles? What, dear madam? What? My thoughts are preoccupied with fancies of release from this dull routine. Well, it's about the violin. It looks very different to normal, don't you think? Huh? What do you mean, Mrs. Arthur? Oh, Susie's right. Yes, The town in the wood is completely different. And that's not all, I'm sure there was no crack here before. Wait, it's not even the right size, is it? Also, this is a viola, chat! For some reason, Sherlock Holmes does not have his violin, he has a viola. And my controller escaped. Fly off! What's this? I'm terribly sorry to have to tell you this, Mr. Scholes, but this instrument isn't a violin at all. Then, what? I believe it's an entirely different instrument called a viola. What? What? Oh, Mr. Scholes, are you alright? You're right, you are quite right. This isn't my faithful Stradivarius? So what, pray, is this piece of stringed flotsam? Not your faithful performing partner, then. So it turns out he does just own a Strad. Wild. You do love to see Conan Doyle making Sholmes obscenely rich for no discernible reason. Ah, I see what must have happened. You do, Iris? This is just a simple mix-up. Sherlock Holmes purchased his own Stradivarius, which was worth at least 500 guineas for 45 shillings at a pawnbroker shop in London's Tottenham Court Road. Well, so I'm not sure why the localizer said in this game it was 55 shillings, but you know, that's fine. It sounds like Iris may be able to tell us exactly what's happened if we ask her. What do you mean by a mix-up, Iris? Well, you see, this viola, I mean, was at Windybanks until last week. At the pawnbroker's? No, Mr. Scholl's beloved musical partner. There's a proverb from the East which you are no doubt familiar, my dear fellows. Always let a beloved child travel. Yes, indeed. So you sent your beloved violin to the pawnbrokers in the hopes that it would experience personal growth? Ah, what a wonderful idea! Susato! Why, who took your brain cell? Right, is Iris the only one with the brain cell today? Apparently everyone's sharing a brain cell and currently Iris has it. Last week I pawned my great analytoscope in order to release my precious instrument. Boy up here, Mr. Windenbank mistakenly furnished me with this tawdry fiddle instead. But my ears cannot be deceived by the hollow timbre of this piece of timber. No, but you know, every sense was deceived by the fact that it just had strings. Pshaw, fine state of affairs this is. And why I always say, Mr. Naruhodo, never trust a pawnbroker. They will try to fiddle you every time. But earlier you told us that you can think of a pawnbrokery as an extremely secure vault. Come, Mr. Naruhodo, dilly-dallying will get you nowhere. Sorry? Crunching your toast with a vacant expression, fressing your coffee so obtusely. Are you not a little embarrassed by your own conduct, considering the urgency with which we are faced? We must visit Miss Winterbeck's brokery at once. That's right, isn't it, Mr. Sholmes? Precisely, Miss Susato. Without a moment's delay. But I haven't finished my bacon and eggs. My dear fellow, surely you do not still intend to crunch your bacon with an increasingly vacant aspect, to press your egg ever more obtusely? Alright, say no more, let's go then. Don't worry, Bruno, I'd be happy to heat it up for you again later. Thank you, Iris. As it happens, I am rather curious to see what a British pawnbroker's looks like. Let's go. This is not what 221B Baker Street looks like, folks. I hate to break it to you. It's already been 2 months since we started taking lodgings here above Mr. Jones's office. I still can't quite believe it. I never expected things would turn out like this. Oh, I know. To actually be sharing accommodation with the world's greatest detective? If I ever find myself before a court of law now, I will have not one regret. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'd be happy to defend you, of course. I mean, the ice cold take, or no, the nitpick is that this is not what this part of Baker Street looks like. I've been to this part of Baker Street. There is no curve here. It goes straight down, all the way down to Marylebone. And then you come up, and it's... well, there's a door, and then 221B is up on the diagonal here. Right, it's a second floor apart, or first floor in London, apartment. Up and off to the side. And then there's like another 2 buildings before the next corner. Also, it doesn't have any of these columns, much less something this Beaux Arts. The architectural style here is what's known as Beaux Arts. It's extremely popular in the late 19th century. It's basically, right, the neoclassical facade that you see in a whole bunch of museums. The Ashmolean, Field Museum, Museum of Fine Arts, etc. That's all Beaux Arts. That's what this is. You can make, I guess you can make some semblance of an argument that this should be considered Georgian, but North Corinthian columns. I would say that this is later period. And of course the ice cold take is... himbos. Himbos everywhere. He is a supreme himbo. He is the smartest of the himbos, but he still is a magnificent himbo. Look at all the different things in the window of this shop. Ah, that's Winterbanks, the pawnbrokery. It looks much smarter than the pawnbrokers in Japan, doesn't it? Yes, you're right. I find pawnshops at home rather inapproachable, personally. It reminds me of tearfully parting with my favorite fountain pen. I felt so miserable. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger, Mr. Naruhodo. Surprising amount of closed doors. Yeah, things don't look like they're in great shape, do they? If 222 and 223 are both closed, place doesn't seem like it, and there's awfully few people around. Right, nice part of town. I mean, the houses are in good condition. Things seem relatively clean. The streets are cobbled instead of mud. So, nice part of town. But someone's not keeping up with the rent. So this is a British pawnbrokery. Oh my, there are all sorts of tools and contraptions in here that I've never laid eyes on before. Ah, Susato-san, and that spark of wonder in your eyes. You can't wait to scour the shelves, can you? I get the impression you enjoy places like this. Oh yes, I don't know why, but seeing such a lot of things I don't understand is a real thrill for me. Oh, Stefan, do elaborate. If they give us the day of the week with the date and month, ha, they won't do that. My dear fellows, let us not forget why we are here. Oh, Mr. Jones. We are calling on matters of business, not pleasure. And clearly Mr. Jones means business too, judging from the spark of fury in his eyes. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, sir, welcome back. Did you hear that? Brazen welcome. Well, yes, we are potential customers after all. We are disgruntled customers, Mr. Naruhodo. Time to inform Mr. Winterbank of our ire. Come! The fight is afoot! Naturally, you will recall this, which I retrieved from you some days ago. Yes? The second-rate fiddle is not my faithful instrument, Mr. Winterbank. Colorwood is different, it has holes in it, it's not even the same size. A wonderful summary of our observations, Mr. Jones. I'm so very sorry, sir. How utterly unforgivable for me. An inexcusable mistake for a pawnbroker. There's only one way to make amends. I shall have to take my own life. What? I don't think that will be necessary, do you? If I may say just one thing before I pop off. Yes? It was you, Sir Mr. Schultz, who took it upon himself to remove the item the other day, I believe. Sorry? As I recall, I entered the storeroom to fetch your violin when I heard, here it is. You did? And when I turned to controvert you, you had taken the viola and left, sir. However, there can be no doubt that the blame lies firmly at my own door for allowing you to leave. So I shall not grumble or grouse any longer. May this guilt die with me. No! Stop, my dear fellow, the fault is mine. Phew! Well, I fear that the fight is over. I do humbly apologize, Mr. Winterbank. Evidently my questionable disposition precipitated this tragedy. Well, you wouldn't be Mr. Sherlock Holmes without that questionable disposition, now, would you? I do believe you may be right, sir. It's either laugh or cry, I suppose. That's a unique method of customer service. Sure is. You are, it must be said, one of my more challenging customers, and you don't remind me of the peculiar collection of items you brought through my door in the past. Oh? Peculiar items? In the extreme, ma'am. For example, the unpublished manuscript of an eponymous work, the novels of Sherlock Holmes or some such. Oh my, a new fully fledged novel? And unpublished? A story I have yet to read, you mean? Forgive me! Wait! Before you die, you must tell me more. I must know more, tell me everything! Wow, Suzato-san is really fired up now. Is there really an unpublished story under this very roof? Well, one day the gentleman here brought in an old metal chest, you see. I should like to entrust this to your care for a while, Mr. Winterbank. And this dude with another gifted tier 1 sub. Thank you so much. Oh, she's such a fangirl. It's so funny. For just like that, sir, 1 shilling, sir. Not a farthing more. It has something of very great value indeed. The latest manuscript, recounting the adventures of one Mr. Sherlock Holmes. I beg your pardon, a manuscript? You wish to deposit a manuscript? Indeed I do, for I'm confident that it will be quite safe here. And that was that. As such, Mr. Sholmes' latest tale of otherworldly mystery lies dormant in my storeroom. Mr. Sholmes, is that really true? Do I sense that someone doesn't want to talk about this? I continue to pay your fee, do I not? And then, can we continue to store my belongings securely? Think that revolver is a Webley? I mean, that'd check out. That'd be right for the time period, right? Of course, sir, of course. The safe and sound with me, I assure you. On my life. This is all very strange. I wonder, could I ask you something? Oh, just was for the east, I see. Yes, that sable suit. I suppose I could offer you 6 pence for it. Without wishing to offend, the tone is somewhat dull. Sorry? Aha! But for your splendid attire, ma'am, 5 guineas, no less. The colours are exquisite, the design exotic. Eastern artistry at its finest, may I say. Oh my, 5 guineas, you say? How interesting. Why do I feel as though I've suffered some sort of defeat here? Sholmes is using this as a variety of bank, which is an exaggerated version of an actual practice. So, you know, Kosek, it's not as weird as it sounds. Actually, I was hoping to ask you about your business. Please said that pawnbrokers are used rather like banks here in London. Yes, sir, indeed. Many of my customers utilize the establishment as you described. I appraise their items and offer them a proportionate loan and 2 months of secure stowage. If in that time they repay the original sum to me plus the agreed interest, the items are happily returned. But what happens if they don't pay you the money? Then the items are offered for sale in my shop, as you can see on the shelves behind me. So you never sell items before the 2 months has passed then? That's right, man, that's right. Which means some considerable responsibility rests on my shoulders. Should the customer's precious belongings be lost, the only recompense is for me to end it all. Oh, Stefan, you're gonna love this next character. Classic Victorian street attitude of I must have colors. You're gonna love this next one. The very idea of Mr. Winterbank is an absurdity. We should never talk of one's demise so casually. Says the man who was telling us all it was a good day to die only this morning. And let us not forget that I've already helped you take measures to ensure such a tragedy never occurs. Oh, what sort of measures? I engineered a simple device which Mr. Winterbank has installed here in his shop. I call it the Red-Handed Recorder. Is that also Mr. Winterbank? What was that deep sigh about? What on earth is a red-handed recorder? Use your eyes, my dear fellow. There are 2 just below the ceiling. I can see what appears to be a camera attached to some sort of timing device. Very astute. It is indeed a camera furnished with some 100 pieces of celluloid film. And every 30 minutes precisely, the camera automatically records the appearance of the shop. Yeah, I have an example I can show you. It looks like a Smith & Wesson 1899 military and police revolver. Well? Yes, a print from the camera set to record the activity at the... Oh, sorry. Oh, yes. A print from the camera set to record the activity at the shop counter. Developed a special type of film so sensitive it produces a crystal clear image even in darkness. Really? That's extraordinary. Yes, you can clearly see the counter and the door behind it, look. You have no idea how the hell it got to the UK. Well, that's fair. That's an American revolver, isn't it? So, you see, when someone to enter the premises with ill intent, his identity would be summarily exposed. But, did you not say that photographic prints were taken at 30-minute intervals? Indeed, as you say, my dear madame. Then what if the incident were to occur in between times? One can only say, but it would be a cruel twist of fate. I must confess, your devices have been giving me some cause for distress as of late. I beg your pardon, Mr. Winterbank. Surely they are anything but distressing. Reassuring is the word. It's the cost of the film, sir. You must graciously place not 1, but 2 cameras in my shop after all, which means I must pay for nigh on 100 utterly useless prints every single day. I'm afraid the cost of the film will break me before I'm very much older. Nevertheless, a small price to pay to ensure the safety of my preferred pawnbrokery, no? My dear fellows, we verge on an age where safety and security come at a price. Oh, heaven help us! Schultz could make a lot of money with that kind of camera tech? Yep. And now then, Mr. Schultz, allow me to return your precious violin. Ah, the very thing! Thank you, Mr. Winterbank. Perhaps this might mark the end of the peculiar items you tried to pop. If anything would happen to one of them, this would be the only answer. I really think you ought to start waving that gun around. Someone could get hurt. Fear not. Sorry? I only loaded a single bullet, so no one but myself could possibly be harmed. That's not really what I meant. Good day to you then, Mr. Winterbank. It's been a pleasure as always, Mr. Sholmes. So, Mr. Nardo. Now we can explore at last. So much shiny. Hello, shinies. There seems to be a little door hidden behind that curtain there. That leads to the storage room, where Mr. Winterbank keeps articles that are currently in pawn. Ah, I see. There's nothing of particular interest inside. I certainly wouldn't recommend any larcenous activity. Recommended or not, it's not something I tend to do. There's about one key, and Mr. Winterbank keeps it in his pocket at all times. Before he sleeps, he places it into a small pot which he slides under his pillow. How on earth do you know about that, Mr. Sholmes? I am a detective, sir. It is my business to know what others do not. I am frequently assailed by information I neither care for nor wish to retain. Mr. Sholmes, you are a wonder. And the prime suspect if this pawnbrokery is ever burgled. Look at that enormous ledger open on the counter there. Mr. Winterbank is, if nothing else, very particular about recording the items he accepts. He'd have to be, otherwise he'd get himself into all sorts of trouble. Which might explain the thing that catches my eye far more than the ledger. There, have a nice view of the pistol. This revolver here. Do not entertain even a single thought of pilfering an article herein, my dear fellow. I assure you, Mr. Winterbank would not hesitate to draw that weapon with a speed belying his portly size. Oh, you don't mean he'd... Low down reckons out, indeed, in recompense for his blunder. Oh my. But in any case, of course we would never do such a thing. How could you even suggest it? Look at this! What could be this lovely big shiny box be? That, my dear madame, is a music box. Surely you have such things in your own country? Oh my! Yes, but I've never suddenly seen one so large before. Jolly listen a while. Ah, what a sublime sound. It's like the music of angels. I've never heard anything like it before in my life. This particular specimen is of the larger variety, commonly found in public houses and restaurants. There is a metal disc inside on which the notes to be played are recorded. Simply by replacing the disc with another, any music you care to imagine can be played. My goodness, what a simply delightful machine! Indeed, though their popularity has waned recently with the development of the gramophone, of course. Since the technology advanced at such an overwhelming pace. What an assortment of things there are on these shelves here. Crockery, footwear, clocks and watches, almost anything you care to imagine. Those are forfeited items, offered for sale by the pawnbroker. What does that really mean, though? When you pawn, or colloquially pop, an item, the broker lends you money against its worth. He stores the item for an agreed period of time, after which the loan must be repaid. If not, he's free to display it in shop for sale at a price of his choosing. Oh, yes, now you've explained it, I'm noticing a little price tags on everything. Of course, simply by paying the agreed interest on the loan, one can extend the period of safekeeping. So you may pawn that black garb of yours without fear, my dear fellow. My treasured university uniform? Never! It embodies my student spirit. Of course. Now, what do you suppose this rather enormous machine does? It seems to have two little windows for looking through. Allow me to enlighten you, my dear fellows. What you're looking at is a stereoscope. A stereoscope? Fascinating. It is aptly named, I assure you. Look through the eyepieces and see for yourself. I do want to actually look this up real quick. Stereoscope. Typing is hard. Typing is very hard. Alright. When are these super popular? So, for the most part, they look like a bit earlier, right? I mean, this is a big touristy one, but it's probably in the pawn shop because it's a bit outdated. Because it looks like stereoscopes are invented in the 1830s, and they're pretty widespread by the 1860s. So, well, this is a later one, and they continue to be used well into the 20th century. They are, the stereoscope is a bit, really indicative of an earlier period, and of course, will not rapidly, but slowly fall out of favor as entertainment, given that, you know, moving images are about to start existing. Like, within the decade of this game. It is aptly named, I assure you. Look through the eyepieces and see for yourself. Oh, I should be delighted to. Excuse me for just a moment while I... Just before you do, there is something I should point out. My dear fellows, to see the image properly, stereoscopically, as it were, you will need to be cross-eyed. However, if that's beyond you, it is of little consequence today. Alright then, I'm going to try it. Yeah, with little Viewmasters, the little red plastic ones where you flip the switch and it goes through, it rolls the picture. Yeah, I had a bunch of those too. Ah! Mr. Naruto, you must see! At once! Alright then. So I need to be cross-eyed, like I'm trying to look at my own nose. What the? I don't believe it. It's just a photographic print, but it seems like you reach out and touch it. Yes, the sense of depth is startling, is it not? Stereoscopes are one of London's many fads. They're often found in little stalls in the park. People queue for hours to see them. Why? Why are people meddling with such black magic? It is no magic, my dear madame. It is, well, far too complicated to explain at present. We shall save this lesson for another day. Also, yeah, that doll does look like Pinocchio, doesn't it? Science! Look at this! Whatever could it be used for? Yeah, I have no idea. Ah. There's a small catch just here, look! We're going to open it, aren't we? Ta-da! Oh my, that's amazing. It has some sort of spring-loaded mechanism, which will never manage to put back to the way it was before. What are you two doing? What? Us? Nothing. No, nothing at all. Whatever this device is, it seems to have a pair of little windows to look through. I've also seen something rather similar to this elsewhere. This is also a stereoscope. Right, this is a big public one. This is a little handheld one. Yep. There's a lot of entertainment coming on this time. Popular entertainment in the late 19th century is wild. Right? Because there's just so much of it going on. So many different ideas as to what counts as... what's technologically possible as entertainment. And with all these new ideas, and all these sometimes dubious ideas, a big market for things you can do at home, and things you can do as entertainment. Right? I mean... moving pictures, right, with the introduction of the gramophone, realistically, moving pictures with soundtracks are emerging, right? Edison airs one in this decade, in the 1890s, with a hand-cranked gramophone, or wax cylinder gramophone, I should say, synced up to a film. So, right, it's right in this time period that things are really going nuts. That's not a calendar you could easily miss, is it? 15th of April, today's date. Yes, that's not for sale, I must point out. This is an Eastern-style page-a-day calendar. Every night at midnight, I tear off the front page to reveal the following day's date. The perfect calendar for tearaway fellas such as yourself, Mr. Winterbank. And who was it who walked out of here with the wrong violin before? Well, when the agreed storage period has passed without a payment, articles are forfeited, you see. So we have to keep a close eye on the date. Something of a pawnbroker's obsession, you might say. Oh, yes. I can see you're very dedicated to your job. What? Only tuppence, Fit? That I found you know it. That article is barely worth a penny, miss. I cannot offer more. The emergence of theaters for the public was really neat, and then revivalists, Salvation Army, and church choirs rented those out on occasion in late 19th century America. Yay! Read, bringing in the good old-fashioned 19th century religion. And all of its glorious disasters. We appreciate it. Sounds like there's an argument brewing up by the counter. Come on, that can't be right. Have you even had a proper butcher's at it? I've seen all I need to see, young girl. Wait, don't we know? I'm sure I recognize her. Oh, yes, it's the young lady from Miss McGilda's trial 2 months ago. Hello, Gina. Her name is Gina Lestrade, my lord. She's a chancer and across among large crowds, relieving people of their purses. What's commonly called a pickpocket. Go on, bet, you lot! Hello, Miss Lestrade. I hope you've been well. Why do you still have that? Ah, well, you remember me then, didn't you? Well, I remember being completely surrounded by smoke, that's for sure. So, what are you doing in here? Dining out like the rest of it, nothing to eat. Couldn't have walked about that black weasel, sorry, coat, have you? What is it about this black uniform that makes everyone comment on it? Oh, good day. Unless I'm much mistaken. You'll be the young pickpocket who stole our experimental smoke grenade launcher. Yeah, Mr. Sholmes! So, you have something of value to pawn, do you? Allow me to see the article, launcher. I shall negotiate with Mr. Winterbank on your behalf. Holy Orwa, I don't need no help from some stuck-up dear. Get out of my business, go on, or I'll make trouble for you. As you wish, Mr. Strahd. I will happily remove myself from your presence. He's really done it. He's gone. I'm sorry, but as I said, there really is no room for negotiation here. What is that thing he has in his hand? Some kind of metal disc? Ah, you! Go on! Leave me alone! Oh, Miss Lestrade, just pretend we aren't here. We shan't be offended in the slightest. This Sasata-san can really stand her ground when she wants to. Schultz did that piece out of fate. Whatever. Somehow, I didn't really think you were the sort of person who'd use a pawnbroker, Mr. Strahd. Yeah, well, I am, alright. I'm a Londoner, just like everyone else. Not a problem, is it? No, not at all. It's just that, well... Oh, I get it. I know what you're thinking. I think probably don't even belong to her. Probably got on the dive, didn't she? Yeah, I can see it written all over your Chevy Chase. Rhyming slang for face, by the way. Well, I might have been thinking something along those lines. You're not going to deny it, Mr. Naruto? Alright then, I'm just going to come out and ask you straight. Do you pawn things they steal from other people? Well, I don't know how best to answer that, really. I suppose. Sometimes. You're not going to deny it either, Mr. Strahd? But not this time, alright? I swear. Everything belongs to me. The disc that Mr. Winterbank is holding. Perhaps we should see what he has to say about all this? Mr. Winterbank, what exactly is this metal disc that Miss Lestrade has brought in? Seems to have hundreds of tiny little bumps on its surface. Ah, this is a music disc, you see, for use inside a music box. In a music box? What, you don't even know what a music box is? You still not too savvy, eh? I know what a music box is, I've just never seen one of these discs before. The small protrusions on the metal disc encode the tune to be played by the music box. You simply insert the disc and set the machine going, and beautiful music plays. It's so incredible. Tell us, what tune is on this disc? Well, I'm afraid I couldn't tell you that. There are so many different types of music box, you see. British made, German, Swiss. I have no way of knowing which particular machine this disc was made for. Ah, I see. And that's it in a nutshell. I don't have any customers for an item like this, even if the young lady forfeited it. Really, I'm already offering more than I should at a penny. That's a packet of lies. He told me he did. He said it was, well... He? Who? Never you mind. It just ain't right, that's all. But it's worth good money, I know it is. Well then, you'll have to try your luck at another pawnbroker's, won't you? Ah. Ain't that the question, Banfield? Who told her that information? Because someone did. She last slept as someone did, but who is the somebody? She's been here, of course, before, but this little talented Malian. I see. And brought some dubious article or other with her every single time, I might add. Dubious? What are you trying to say? I'm an honest customer, me. So, is there something dubious about the disc she brought in today? Well, if only it were that simple. Sorry, what do you mean? What she actually brought in was a storage ticket. Ah, a storage ticket, so... Miss Lestrade has actually come to redeem an article for you today, is that right? Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff what needs storing. Alright, yes, that's definitely dubious. The article in question would have been forfeited at midnight tonight. Now she gave me the ticket for it and repaid both the loan and the interest. I was obliged to return the article to her. But what was the article? Do you tell us, Mr. Winterbank? The little scamp is wearing it, ma'am. It's the overcoat that she redeemed. What? What's wrong with that? It fits, don't it? I mean, it's mine, so of course it does. So, what about the disc then? Why does that come into all this? Ah, the disc is something else. A new article to pawn if the girl and I can agree to a price. I'm confused. I thought you said that Miss Lestrade brought in a storage ticket today. It's really quite simple. Yes, the child brought me a storage ticket and the money owed on it, as you say. For this heavy black coat, which you returned to Claire, as I'd understood it. That's right, yes. And rather unsurprisingly, as soon as the little ragamuffin put the thing on, she went rifling through the pockets. You mean... Honestly, she looks good in the coat. What, don't you know it's rude to stare at a lady? Ah, I see. So it came from the pocket of the overcoat, did it? If you mean this disc, then yes, exactly, ma'am. And she immediately tried to pawn it, for quite a high price as well. This is all rather suspicious, I think. Give it up, I'm just trying to pawn something like anyone else would. Mr. Lestrade, may I ask you to deposit the overcoat here in the first place? You meant me? It doesn't really appear to be your size. Me old man! It's me old man's, ain't it? Is it Mr. Lestrade? Yes, this is definitely all rather suspicious. It's a good coat. Out of my way, please! Stefan! Bask! In the magnificent picture postcard English gentleman. This man has no color in his eyebrows. This man's hair, eyebrows, and face are precisely the and eyeballs are precisely the same shade. Good day to you, ladies, gentlemen. What's your problem, eh? There is no problem as long as you remove yourself. I have a matter to discuss with the proprietor. And if you intend to make a problem for it, I shall see you outside, little girl, for the hiding you deserve. Also, he's class as the shit. Look, ain't it obvious I ain't done talking with him yet? If you think you're such a jerk, you should know how to wait in line. Well, you are an impudent little brat, aren't you? As well as a pickpocket. Ah! Hey, who are you? How do you know who I am? The question is, how do you not know who I am? You haven't the courtesy even to remember the faces of your victims, it seems. What? You mean I? From you? Broker. Yes, sir. I believe this filthy pocket thief has just redeemed an article from you, no? Yes. The article in question belongs to me. I demand for it to be returned at once. Am I? Oh, that's a lie. What are you trying to pull? Give me back my overcoat, you wastrel. And needless to say, any music box discs too. No, you can't have it. You just can't. It's me old man's. Or it was. Now it's mine. Goodness, Mr. Naruto. This is a very awkward situation. Style. Drama. Yes. I think perhaps we should hear both sides of the story in a little more detail. Mr. Strand, is what the gentleman is saying. What do you think? It's all lies, ain't it? Obviously. I swear on my life, I ain't never laid eyes on that dandy before. Let's hear it now, you little ragamuffin. You stole it, didn't you? That ticket you brought in here just now. No, I swear it. I swear to God. It was barely an hour ago. I was walking along the street minding my own business when this little gutterling ran into me. I knew at once what had happened. I've been robbed yet again, I thought to myself. Those wretched pickpockets. Yet again? Oh yes. As you can see, I am a man of impeccable style. 2 gifts other than having repossessed Lestrande's dad's stuff? I can confirm, he did not repossess Lestrande's dad's stuff. Guys like Gay Creek Girl Boss? Maybe just gaslight. Oh yes, as you can see, I am a man of impeccable style. Yeah, we know. We know, we can see that. I mean, this man has 5 different colors. 6 different colors? The white, the teal, the 2 shades there, the gold, and the lighter color. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's excessive. It's frankly overkill. This isn't the first time I've been targeted by these backslum scoundrels. Now then, relinquish my overcoat. Ugh. Come along now, Mr. Short. Give the good gentleman his coat back. If you're going to cause trouble, I shall have no choice but to call the police. And the 2 gifted subs to Zoe and a watchful spectator. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, and the belt is black, so that makes it 7. Hold on, why does everyone think it's me? Just look at this dandy cove, and you think I'm the dodgy one? I'm sorry, but no one's going to believe you. Well, what about evidence? Yeah. Where's the evidence that I've stolen something, eh? Come on, let's see it. Oh, I have evidence, naturally. You what? Evidence that the article Mr. Strahd redeemed actually belongs to this gentleman? Of course, we need only consult Mr. Winterbank's ledger to know the truth. We'll be able to look up the name of the person who deposited the article in the first place. Yes, brilliant! I'm very sorry, but I'm afraid that won't be possible. I never ask customers' names. That's a strict policy of mine. But why not? Well, now, as you can imagine, some of my customers have circumstances to consider. A great many of them prefer to maintain their anonymity. Yes, I see. But then, how can you know if an article belongs to the person asking to redeem it? Oh, it's quite simple. Good sir, might I trouble you for the watchword associated with the article in question? Of course, it's Professor. Yes, that's right, and all the evidence we need. The gentleman is the rightful owner of the article, without doubt. A watchword? Interesting. So, about these watchwords, Mr. Winterbank. As I just explained, I never ask customers' names when they deposit items with me. There are many reasons why certain customers would like to keep their activities secret. That wasn't exactly a subtle glance at Mr. Scholz, now was it? Great detectives have no dark secrets, none at all. Yes, well, anyway, that's why I always ask for a watchword whenever I accept a new article. In many ways, it's like the secret combination of numbers used to unlock a vault. The date of the deposit, a description, and a watchword uniquely identify each item. And of course I give the storage ticket to the customer. When someone comes to redeem something, I ask for the ticket and the watchword. And if someone tells you the correct watchword, you return the article? That's right, sir, yes. Just as soon as the requisite fee is paid. And I have supplied you with the information you require already. Before the avoidance of doubt, the article in question is an overcoat deposited 2 months ago on 15th February. With the watchword of Professor. All perfectly correct information, sir. But ow! Really, this is beyond a joke now. There is no further room for doubt. Excuse me, but who are you? One would expect the Enquirer to introduce himself first, but clearly you are not British, so perhaps our ways are foreign to you. Oh, sorry, yes, we're from the Empire of Japan. We're studying here. Oh yes, Japan. I've heard talk of the place. Sir! Its inhabitants live on some fiery, brown-colored soup, dressed up with exotic spices. You might be thinking of somewhere else. Miso! He's clearly referring to miso, but spicy miso. And what was that theatrical gesticulation about? Perhaps. Anyway, if you are a gentleman, sir, you offer your own name first before inquiring after the name of another. Of course, yes, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. I'm a lawyer, well, a student of law, really. My name is Susato Mikotaba. I am Mr. Naruhodo's assistant. I see. My name is Benedict. Yes, Agate Benedict. Enchanté. He's so refined in how he holds himself and how he speaks, but that name is suspicious. Now, to the matter at hand. My overcoat! Return it at once. To someone with the style to carry it off. Every movie makes. It really takes. I cannot stand watching it. So, let that be an end to the matter. And thank you for your custom, Mr. Egbert Benedict, sir. With such reasonable rates of interest, I may even decide to come back. That overcoat was smaller on Gina. It sure was. This is why I hate grown-ups. Because I'm a diver, everyone thinks that makes me a liar. And the contents of the coat pockets, if you please, broker. But of course, sir, here is the disc for you. Just this one? Pardon, sir? I was expecting another. That is, I deposited another. Another disc? Oh dear. I regret to inform you, sir, that what was deposited with me was merely the overcoat. The disc happened to be in one of the pockets, but I was completely unaware of it until now. So, Gutterlink, you're hiding more of what's rightfully mine, are you? Says who, eh? I don't know nothing about it. Very well. Then I shall bid you farewell. Say goodbye to Star. Wait a minute, that disc is mine. Ah! Well, what do you think you're doing, you little tramp? You've drawn blood, you filthy animal. Oh my, yes, there's blood on the disc. It's because of all those sharp little bumps. The man must have scratched his finger on them. I find it first, alright? I mean, it belonged to me, old man. So you're not having it. Alright, you take it. Me? If I hang on to it, they'll have it off me again, so you keep hold of it. Mr. Strahd, why is this disc so important to her? You there, in the black livery. Add that disc to me at once, please. No, don't! He's lying. Grown-ups are all liars. What do I do now? How am I going to resolve this? Mr. Winterbank is clearly lost here. We have to do something about this before we reach for that revolver of his. Should we just ask for help? Should we just ask for help here? I feel like we should just ask for help here. Because these two aren't going to have any good options. Take the disc and run! Mr. Jones, what are you examining with such keen interest there? Must you enjoy a bar of caramel, I see. So, you found me at last, Mr. Naruhodo. Sorry? After that young pickpocket sent me on my way, I was forced to lurk in the shadows, cruelly ostracized, as the rest of you partaking in the jovial atmosphere of fellowship. Had nothing to occupy my mind, but was too ashamed to let society see what my downfall had done to me. So, feigning mock interest, I pretended to examine the tedious trinkets in this desolate place, whilst, as you truly observed, knowing on the only friend I have left, this 7% solution of caramel. What a drama! Pray, do you claim to understand the depths of my despair, Mr. Naruhodo? But how could you? I was so lonely, so desperately lonely. But why on earth didn't you rejoin the conversation? Things have gotten from bad to worse here, you know. Yes, I overheard much of your conversation. Or rather, in my craving for human contact, my ears devoured every word that was uttered. You really were sad, weren't you? Well, Mr. Jones, I feel simply awful for you. It would seem that my inferences are correct. Oh, surely you're not about to tell us that you solved the entire case once again? It just says Sean's Caramel. My dear madame, sometimes I wonder, were my genius for deduction to be commoditized? How much could I pawn it for? It seems Mr. Jones has had another of his flashes of inspiration. But who knows if he'll help to resolve the situation between Miss Lestrade and the mysterious gentleman. What's the right thing to do here? Help the himbo, give the himbo something to do. Ryunosuke, it is polite to provide your himbos with simulation. Of course we were going to listen to the deduction. Sherlock Holmes will literally conspire to create an entire mystery for his friends to solve instead of going to therapy. Correct. Well, Mr. Strahd, it would appear you find yourself in something of a predicament. What a blue blaze have you been, eh? Pardon? Well, he's in trouble. A true gem's supposed to be there to help. Straight away, not an hour later. God, I love his fall down animation. It is my favorite animation in this game. Almost. It is my second favorite animation in this game. Just blah. Harsh. And who, pray tell, are you? Mr. Aegis Benedict. You have in my eyes a veritably encyclopedic array of curiosities about your person. Nevertheless, there are two immovable conclusions I have drawn. I beg your pardon. The first is this. The true reason for your visit to this pawnbrokery today is something you have not yet revealed. And the second is this. A considerable crime is in contemplation, one you will orchestrate with intent to steal a vast sum of money. Well, Mr. Benedict, what say you to my deductions? How? He's turned as white as a hard-boiled egg. It would seem that once again Mr. Jones has made a flawless deduction. Well... Just who do you think you are, sir? Ah yes, as I hoped. That was precisely the painted expression I was looking for. So, shall we begin? The time has come for yet another Sherlock Holmes' Logic and Reasoning Spectacular. First of all, we'll set ourselves on what business you ventured to this pawnbrokery today. You claim to follow this pickpocketer having had the redemption ticket stolen from you on the street. But that is most certainly a lie. The real truth is something quite different. As revealed by that which you hold in your hand. Yes, what brought you to the shop in the first place is the staff recruitment flyer. The piece of paper in your hand is a staff wanted advertisement from this very shop. Yet even the most unobservant will soon realize that a man of your appearance has no need of such employer. In other words, there is some ulterior motive for your actions. The cane with which you unwittingly clutch to your person exhibits an incontrovertible contradiction. What utter rot! I've had this cane for years. The contradiction of which I speak is, of course, the missing ferrule. The end of any walking cane would be terminated with a metal ferrule to protect the wooden tip. And yet, detailed analysis shows the wooden tip of this stick to be utterly bare. Therefore, there is only one conclusion. The rolling you hold in hand, which appears to be a walking cane, is in fact no cane at all. You recoil, sir? Is something wrong? In your recoiling, you inadvertently facilitate the answer to the next conundrum to present itself. Namely, what is the truth behind this rod you bear? Yes, your reaction betrays the truth. The handle, which you evidently would like to conceal, is the key to understanding this riddle, you see. From the moment I saw it, my suspicions were aroused. What walking cane demands such a stout handle, mused I. But of course, as I said, this is no walking cane. Now that rod is the broken handle of a shovel. What? Are you insane? And now, having determined this undeniable truth, the conclusion is clear. Your true motive for coming here was to take employment at this establishment in order to excavate the ground beneath the premises. What a calculated crime you have conceived, sir. A wickedly calculated crime. My god, it's a shovel! Great crime. Now, Mr. Benedict, let us continue. For I must express the details of this elaborate crime you have in the planning. This is utterly absurd. You suggest that I, a gentleman, intend to excavate the ground beneath this pawnbrokery with a broken shovel? What on earth do you propose they could expect to find there? Some long-forgotten treasure, I suppose. Save for such a fanciful theory, what possible reason could I have to do as you say? Oh, but there is ample reason. As you are only too well aware, Mr. Benedict. This is a reference to the Red-Headed League, yes. Chat, you are correct. This deduction is just the plot of the Red-Headed League, which is a Sherlock Holmes story involving digging underneath a shop in order to break into a bank vault. Ah, and your furtive glance is more telling than I could have hoped. What? Let's consider what motivated a man to infiltrate a shop such as this and covertly dig beneath its floor. The answer is revealed by the council notice on the counter to which your eyes were inadvertently drawn. This letter gives notice of public works to be carried out in the local area. And according to the enclosed plan of the upcoming sewerage works, beneath the shop runs a sewer that adjoins another, one that runs under the bank on the opposite side of the street. There's no bank on the other side of Baker Street. There's a park. Across from 221B Baker Street, there is a park. There is no bank there. There has never been a bank there. This madness has entered the sewers now, has it? When you excavate the ground beneath our feet, you would gain access to the waterway that flows in very close proximity to the great vault of the financial institution opposite. What are you... In summary, sir. Be advised. A massive plan to pull off an elaborate bank robbery by dint of the underground tunnels. Fun fact, someone actually ended up doing that. Wild. Master plan? Which brings us at last to the final chapter of this lurid scheme. With what plunder did the thief hope to make off from the underground vault of the bank? Are you quite serious? Having consulted with Scotland Yard some days ago, I happen to know the answer. But naturally, the answer is no secret to you, is it, Mr. Benedict? I have no idea what you're talking about. Allow me to present a rather interesting piece of evidence. You see, this picture postcard tells us all we need to know. A postcard of the Great Exhibition? I'm afraid you've quite lost me. Currently in the final stage of preparation, the Great Exhibition will soon be underway, and the government has provided extra funds to complete its centerpiece, the Crystal Tower. Funds that currently sit in the vault of the bank on the other side of this road. Pardon? Yes, the considerable crime you have been contemplating. It is the theft of that which sits in the vault, the special reserve funds for the Great Exhibition. Of course, that is top secret police information, so keep it under your hat, please. Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes's great deduction of this pawnbroking puzzle. Yeah, well, look, Himbo's gonna Himbo Himville. Yes, it was an incredibly stupid thing to do, but he has one brain cell, and it all went to coming up with the scheme. Mr. Shawns? Well, Mr. Naraya? An impressively upbeat deduction for a detective racked with loneliness, would you not agree? Was it true what you said about the bank over the road and what it has in its vault? Indeed, that few know of its existence, it is one of the government's most closely guarded secrets. Grayson told me, in the strictest confidence. But you just announced it to everyone here, rather loudly in fact. Now if it's such a big secret, how would Mr. Benedict have come to find out about it? That can be but one explanation for that. Clearly it's because the man is a criminal. But what if he didn't know anything about the money in the vault? If he is a criminal, as he said, the buying a brand new shovel is sure to be the first thing he does now that you've revealed the secret. Or if he doesn't, maybe Mr. Winterbank will. He already has plenty of shovels here after all. Oh my life, I assure you I'm not so unscrupulous. Well, I believe this taught you a valuable lesson. Sensitive information must be handled with the utmost of care. One can never be sure that someone privy to the secrets won't disclose them, and once the word is out, it's out. Perhaps I'll think twice before confiding in you next time, Mr. Jones. An excellent idea, Mr. Naruto. An excellent idea. Well, Mr. Naruto, although you know what to do, I'm sure. Yes, let's listen to that great deduction again and see if we can massage it into shape. Very well then, let's start once more from the beginning. Sherlock Holmes' magnificent logic and reasoning spectacular. Hold it, Mr. Jones. Of course he doesn't deny it. Come on. He used all of his brain cells to get to the great deduction. He has none left in order to be clever and or deceitful. Right, he is a himbo after all. Pure of heart, dumb of ass. Let's try this again, shall we? So, by Mr. Sholmes' reasoning, Mr. Benedict came here in order to apply for a job so we could dig down through the floor. Yes, in an attempt to tunnel into the sewers to gain access to the money in the vault of the bank across the road. But he wouldn't get very far with a broken shovel, would he? No, I think it's fair to say his motives lie elsewhere. The question is, where? What did Mr. Benedict... Heck. What did Mr. Benedict bring here... What did bring Mr. Benedict here at this particular point in time? Certainly is a flyer for Mr. Winterbank's shop. Let's see. Winterbank's wants you. Pawnbroker's assistance required. It's an eye-catching advertisement, that's for sure. I've seen the same flyer up here inside the shop, I think. Perhaps Mr. Winterbank is always in need of more staff. So, Mr. Benedict came here to apply for a job? That's just too hard to believe. Wow. For some reason, voice acting makes me yawn. Wolfie, I'm not actually tired. It's just that voice acting, especially voice acting Ryunosuke, makes me yawn. I'm not entirely sure why. That being said, when we get to a breaking point, I think we will be calling it a night, just because I have some homework I have to do yet. But we're good for the moment. Cute. No, cute. Oh, look at all the scribbled notes on the back of the flyer here. I don't believe it. What is it? Listen to what it says. Name, Gina Lestrade. Height, 5'2". Green crop, scruffy waistcoat, grumpy white shirt, blue satchel, ragged. It's a detailed description of Miss Lestrade. Goodness, there's even a sketch of her, hat and all. Although if he showed it to her, she'd fire that smoke grenade launcher in his face for sure. And look, the details of the shop have been written down here too. Winterbank's Pawnbroker, Baker Street, redemption deadline 15th April. Which is today's date. Why does Mr. Benedict have all that information scrawled on the back of that piece of paper?
Take that!
Yes, what brought you to the shop in this first place is the info about Miss Lestrade. Quite so, my dear fellow. It would appear that the writing and sketch on the reverse of the flyer pertain to the pickpocket, Miss Lestrade, and to Mr. Winterbank's pawnbrokery here. You originally told us that you were merely given chase after Miss Lestrade stole the redemption ticket from you. But that, sir, is a thinly veiled lie. It is the information on the back of the flyer that led you here today, by which I mean here to Winterbank's pawnbrokery, and today the redemption deadline of that overcoat. So, you wait outside for the young girl matching the description you have written down to arrive. And you have gone to some lengths to hide the reason for your pursuit of Miss Lestrade. In other words, there is some ulterior motive for your actions. The case in which you unwittingly clutched to your person exhibits an incontrovertible contradiction. What utter rot! I've had this cane for years. The contradiction of which I speak is, of course, the missing ferrule. What's a ferrule? It's the metal cap commonly found on the end of a cane, Mr. Naruto. Ah, the bit that makes the nice clacking sound on the pavement? Yes, exactly. And Mr. Schultz is right, it appears to be missing on this cane. But it doesn't actually look broken, does it? No, it doesn't, though the gentleman certainly did recoil when Mr. Schultz identified the cane as suspicious. In other words, there's some secret about the cane that Mr. Benedict would rather we don't know. Hello. The end of this cane is just bare wood. Yes, and according to Mr. Schultz's deduction, this is where the shovel blade would have been attached. Couldn't it just be that the tip fell off? I'm sorry, Mr. Naruto, but I couldn't possibly speculate. Look here, Mr. Sato. There are some letters on the handle. Ah yes, those must be initials, I think. In the West, it's customary for people to engrave their belongings with the first letters of their names. So, her initials will be HS, you mean? That's right, and the initials of this cane, obviously. Oh. AG? Why does it feel as though that's not quite right?
Take that!
You are correct. The handle has the wrong initials. The contradiction of which I speak is, of course, the initialing. A most astute observation. What you say, Mr. Eggert Benedict? We are led to believe so that your initials are EB. Yet, in the most possessive manner, you have in your grasp a cane bearing the initials AG. An incontrovertible contradiction indeed, would you not agree? No, you're wrong. This cane isn't... You said before that you'd had that cane for years. Ugh. So don't try to tell us that you just borrowed it from a friend or found it in the park. In short, although you hold yourself to be a gentleman, you have withheld your true name. You recall, sir, it's nothing wrong. In your recalling, you inadvertently facilitate the answer to the next conundrum to present itself. Namely, what is the truth behind this rod you bear? Yes, your action betrays the truth. The handle, which you would evidently like to conceal, is the key to understanding this riddle you see. Let's consider the bare bones of what's happened here. Mr. Strong redeemed that fine-looking overcoat, and a mysterious man has appeared, introducing himself with a fake name and claiming that the overcoat belongs to him. But we know that he actually identified Mr. Strong from a written description, which suggests that everything else he's told us is untrue. So what we need to do here is somehow prove that the overcoat cannot possibly belong to him. Swordcade. I still believe in the swordcade. Oh, the seam on the shoulder there is coming apart, look. So it is. Do you know, a moment ago when Mr. Benedict was surprised by something that was said, I thought that it made a rather strange noise. It sounded a bit like a tiny growl. Now I think it was probably the sound of this seam ripping open. If you look closely, it does seem to be a very tight fit. The sleeves are stretched to bursting, and you wouldn't have a hope of fastening it at the front. If you were to run around in it, I'm sure the whole thing would fall apart. That I'd like to see. Sorry? So can we make Mr. Benedict run around? She's really giving this some thought.
Take that!
Boop. Sad. No sword cane. No sword cane moments. The split seam, which we definitely would like to conceal, is the key to understanding this riddle, you see? Yes, because the overcoat is rather obviously a poor fit. Oh. Having forced it over your broad shoulders, the seam is already breaking apart. My suspicions were aroused from the outset. When you so boldly lied about your name and so boldly waylaid this pickpocket. This catalogue of untruths has all been for one very specific purpose. To steal the article that the young girl redeemed from Mr. Winterbeck. Ah! But what really irks me is this. The considerable crime I initially imagined has been considerably curtailed. On another fashion, you love the way they did the ascot. It's both tied in the usual manner, but then held with a little tie ring, which is adorable. Yes, it is. It is very well done on multiple fronts. Spin! Now, Mr. Benedict, let's continue. For most depends on the details of this elaborate crime that you have in the planning. This is utterly absurd. You suggest that I, a gentleman, designed a wheeze to filch some tawdry article of pawnage. Have you forgotten that I redeemed the article in the proper manner, using the watchword? I had not been the one to deposit it in the first place. How could I possibly have known the relevant details, n'est-ce pas? Oh, but the watchword can be discovered. As you are only too well aware, Mr. Benedict. Ah, and your furtive glance is more telling than I could have hoped. What? Let us uncover how one might have come to learn a secret watchword relating to the pawn property of another. The method revealed by the council notice on the counter to which your eyes were inadvertently drawn. The direction of the deduction must change rather dramatically now, I think. Yes, no one talk of tunneling into the sewers. Which is a pity, because it all sounded rather exciting. Anyway, you can't deny that this mysterious gentleman did know the watchword. Yes, Professor. If you didn't know that word, Mr. Winterbank would never allow you to redeem the article. Or looking at it another way, if you did know that word, Mr. Winterbank would allow you to redeem the article whether it was yours or not. Yes. So, the question is, could this gentleman have found the watchword out somehow? What are our... Doggo! Popo! Kitty! A good Popo. Kitty! May we get our relevant emotes, Pam? Come now. We have marginalia for both doggos and catos. Let's get some emotes for the good boys. Thank you, this dude, for leading the charge on the good boys. Look at this, Mr. Zato. Ah, it appears to be a memo that Mr. Winterbank has scribbled to himself. Let's see, what does it say? Oh, Professor. Mr. Winterbank must make a note of the watchwords his customers give him right before their eyes. An alarmingly clear script as well. Oh dear, I don't know where to look. Who knows what other secrets I might see? I see we're excellent at our job. Everyone in this game is good at their jobs, we promise. The method is revealed by the notelet on the counter to which your eyes were inadvertently drawn. Yes, the broker here follows the same procedure whenever a customer comes to redeem an article. He asks the customer for the watchword and notes down the response uttered on a notelet he has to hand. Then he consults his ledger and confirms whether or not the watchword matches that of the article in question. I would expect nothing less of a diligent pawnbroker. But his diligence clearly has its disadvantages. What are you talking about? It is increasingly apparent that you were present in the shop before your accusation against Miss Lestrade. In all likelihood, you followed her inside, then observed her talking to Mr. Winterbank. When the diligent broker made a note of the watchword, as is his common practice, you observed him writing the word Professor. You observed him writing the word Professor on the notelet beside the ledger. And that, sir, was the master plan you advised to steal the pawned article from the young Miss Lestrade. Master plan? He spins. Which brings us at last to the final chapter of this lurid scheme. Why would you go to such lengths to reclaim that particular article from this pawnbroker? Are you quite serious? For an elfin overcoat hardly seems to justify the effort, much less a worthless music box disc. Naturally, you had very good reason to make them yours, didn't he, Mr. Benedict? I have no idea what you're talking about. Allow me to present a rather interesting piece of evidence. You see, this picture postcard tells us all we need to know. Spinny, spinny. The articles we're talking about are the overcoat and the music box disc that was in one of his pockets, which according to Mr. Winterbank isn't even worth a penny. Why this man went to such lengths to steal them? Why? Wonder if perhaps you already have the evidence we need to explain it, Mr. Naruto? Could we? Really? We'll have a thorough look through all the evidence we've collected thus far. Our whole one piece of it. Our whole singular piece of evidence. Look at all the little bumps on the disc. They're so tiny. Yes, the protrusions are called pins, and they pluck the teeth of the comb to make noises. And just on the edge, there's a small amount of blood. Yes. The blood of the mysterious Mr. Agate Benedict. When Mr. Straw tried to grab the disc from him, the pins scratched his fingers, it seems. Like when you're grating some daikon radish and accidentally scratch your finger. Ouch. Just thinking about it hurts. Puts me off for eating radish. Oh, there's a little scrap of paper stuck to the reverse side of the disc. Look. And a scribbled word or two. It looks like somebody's name. For McGilded. McGilded? It couldn't be. But it is, Mr. Naruhodo. A name I shall never forget for as long as I live. But why? Why is his name on this?
Take that!
Redwheel? If you missed early streams, case 3 of this game, we defended an extremely rich Irishman named Magnus McGilded, as he was accused of doing a murder, and was being extremely suspicious about it, and may have forged some evidence in order to prove himself innocent. He then promptly burned to death inside the evidence that he may have forged. Oops. You see, this music box disc tells us all we need to know. What's that on the back? It reads, for McGilded. Ah! Mr. Magnus McGilded, the unfortunate philanthropist who perished in curious circumstances at the Old Bailey 2 months ago. A prominent man in London, though his loan-mongering demonstrated a distinct lack of scruples. So, you're an associate of his, are you? Or perhaps a subordinate? Mr. McGilded was a man of unusually small stature. In fact, he was precisely the right size for that overcoat that you squeezed yourself into. Your true identity remains shrouded in mystery, Mr. Agate Benedict. Well, the final conclusion here is crystal clear. The reason you came to this prom breakery today was to retrieve an article left behind by the late Magnus McGilded. Ah! Spins! Spin! Sepia tone. Yes, that is Magnus McGilded's coat. Bravo, bravo. Well, well. Mr. Magnus McGilded. No name I expected to hear in these circumstances. Mr. Jones, I'm afraid there's something very troubling on my mind. Pray tell, Miss Susato. Well, according to what Mr. Winterbank told us earlier, today was the final day on which the code could have been redeemed, was it not? Yes, ma'am, that is correct. Today would be precisely 2 months since it was first deposited. Well, today is 15th of April, so 2 months ago today. Wait a minute, 15th February, sir, that's right. It's all carefully recorded in my ledger. Posted it at 10:30 p.m., I see. What? But that suggests... Yes, 15th February. It's precisely the day on which the omnibus murder took place. And 10:30 in the evening is precisely the time at which the terrible events were unfolding. Suggestive is not the word. It would seem the matter is entirely beyond coincidence. You are of course at liberty to make whatever outlandish deductions you choose. However, I must insist you hand over the music box disc now. It would be a terrible shame for you both to return to your native land in a box. What do I do? I mean, it's just part of the style, right? I mean, yes, it is a holdover from the Game Boy Advance era where we had like a dozen poses that we could play with. But now it's just part of the flair. It wouldn't be right. There are some things a man must protect at all costs. This may well be one of those things. Then again, it may not. Mr. Winterbank! This is my shop. I can't allow anyone to come to my customers. If that were to happen, I should have to take my own life. Mr. Winterbank, no! Alright, that's enough. No, that was his pistol, Grand Chicken Lord, not Winterbank's. Winterbank had his own pistol that he was going to use to shoot himself to turn it into a triple homicide. Inspector Gregson. Inspector? That's right, Sunshine. The alarm was raised on one of our dedicated emergency lines. So we got here as fast as we could. Now, what's all this about, eh? Oh, praise me, you're here at last. I was a moment away from forfeiting my own life in my very own establishment. It would seem you have the upper hand. Right, you and I have got some explaining to do. I don't appreciate being bothered with some petty argy-bargy. Petty? Mr. Winterbank very nearly met with his end. Yeah, by his own gun as far as I can tell. Oh dear. And all of Britain could meet with his end if I don't get to the bottom of the case I'm supposed to be working on. What? What on earth is the case, Inspector? Very no detail, Gregson. I might have said a little too much. No matter, it's nothing to do with you lot. Fish and chips. Anyways, you're gonna have to come with me down to the station. But of course, Inspector. Ah! He's getting away! Get after him, lads! Whistle the beat officer too! Sir! He just spin. I mean, apparently spin to win is a time-honored tradition in not just this game. There's been a spate of thefts at pawn shops around here recently, so we've hidden emergency buttons underneath the counters for brokers to let us know when there's trouble. Spin! Oh, Inspector, I was very worried there for a while. Very worried indeed. Now, lad, Mr. Permanently Morning. Yes? I'll be taking out whatever it is in McGill down to the yard, thank you very much. So, hand it over. Oh, yes, of course. No, don't give it to him. It's mine, that is. Mine. I'm sorry, miss. My name belonging to McGill has to be taken in as evidence now. Evidence? If the police demand something as evidence, my dear fellow, we have no choice but to capitulate. It's all yours, Inspector. Which of the crew from Dracula do you mean, a dim corner? Right, there's like 4 of them, right? There's Jonathan, there's Quincy Morris, there's Lord Godalming, and there's Dr. Seward. Right? And they're all pretty much useless. Right? Let's be honest. Quincy's entire personality is that he's American. Lord Godalming's entire personality is that he's rich. Seward runs the insane asylum, which is helpful, I guess. And John Harker was unlucky. And there's their entire personalities. I don't think that's true, though. Right? A dim corner, right? I don't think that's true that Dr. Seward work is the equivalent function to Watson. Because Helsing spends as much time expositing to Lord Godalming as he ever does to Seward. Yeah. Right, it's mostly just that Dr. Seward happens to have more shared interests with Van Helsing than the rest of them, but, right, he's got entire chunks of time where he's actually, like, being productive to the plot, which is honestly more than I can say for Lord Godalming, whose entire personality, once again, is that he is rich. And so we handed Mr. McGill's disc over to Inspector Gregson, and was summarily turfed out of the shop and into the street. Alright, chat. Regrettably, this will be where we leave off for the day. Because I do have other things I have to take care of this evening. I wish I could stay longer, do another sector, but I'm afraid it is not to be. So, we will get to some, extreme drama next time. But, I hope you all enjoyed. I certainly did. If you did, once again, make sure that you do consider following, subscribing, and supporting the show by heading over to patreon.com/LudoHistory and checking that out. We'll be back soon with more of this. I need to figure out what's coming up on Tuesday, though. Our next stream will be Tuesday. It'll be something. If I can't figure out, or if one of my other ideas falls through, it may just be this again. That would be okay. Don't worry, this next one's good. This next section is dramatic. It deserves the time. But then Thursday is going to be more Elden Ring. You know, because that's a thing. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this stream, and I hope you will all tune in for the next one. And until then, enjoy the ends of your weekends and the beginnings of your weeks. May your Monday be chill and peaceful. Alright, folks? Have a good night. Bye.